The soggy toast was not built for elegance. It was shaped like a lunchbox someone had tried to microwave, painted a dull blue that flaked under scrutiny, and powered by an engine that only ran properly if someone banged the port coolant relay with a wrench before startup. The external sensors had been replaced twice, once due to micrometeorite damage, and once because someone mistook the originals for coat hooks. Despite all of this, or perhaps because of it, the soggy toast was famously fast, alarmingly maneuverable, and legally classified as technically operable. It was also run by a 3-person Terran courier crew, with absolutely no respect for bureaucracy and an aggressive devotion to on-time deliveries. So when they docked at GC Logistics Relay 9 Beta to pick up a routine parcel tagged Agricultural Perishables Priority Urgent, no one thought much of it. Not the loading tech who barely looked up from his datapad. Not the GC hub supervisor who waved the transfer through with a yawn. And certainly not the intern who'd mislabeled the crate, mostly to clear her task queue before her lunch break, and partially because she didn't know how to spell diplomatic. Captain Elsie Tran signed the manifest, squinted at the cargo crate, a black carbon poly unit sealed with 4 magnetic locks and a glowing green priority strip, and nodded. Urgent produce. Got it. Don't shake it, added the dockhand without looking up. Elsie raised an eyebrow. Does it explode? The dockhand shrugged. It's food. Everything explodes eventually. That was good enough for her. Within 6 minutes, the crate was secured in the rear cargo bay, wedged between a box of space protein bars and an experimental rice cooker. The clamps were retracted, and the soggy toast was en route to its delivery target, the Varnari capital on Larthos Prime. No one aboard questioned the contents. The soggy toast crew had a simple rule. If it says urgent, go fast. If it says agricultural, don't ask questions. If it says both, do not open it unless fluids start leaking. They were halfway through the outer trade corridor when things began to unravel, though not for them. Back at GC Logistics HQ, a minor flag triggered in the internal diplomatic cargo registry. This flag, usually ignored, had been patched by a recent update and now displayed the alert in bold red text. Delivery in progress, courier ID, soggy toast. A junior administrator stared at the listing. He blinked. Then he slowly turned to his supervisor and asked, in a voice normally reserved for sudden heart attacks, "Do we know a soggy toast?" 15 minutes later, GC Command was in full panic. The payload, diplomatic codes, preliminary agreements, and a ceremonial declaration plate between the Drelkar and Varnari, was intended to be hand-delivered by a high-ranking ambassadorial team escorted by 3 ships, 2 lawyers, and 1 very nervous interpreter. Instead, it was now in the hands of a human courier crew known for filing all paperwork under Other, and once delivering a wedding cake to a mining barge by airdropping it through the ceiling with parachutes. 20 encrypted recall orders were issued immediately. None were received. The soggy toast's comm array, upgraded last cycle with off-brand Terran components and a personal media tuner, was currently locked on a broadcast loop of classic Disaster Kitchen. Episode 43, Soufflés of Regret. Okay, said Elsie, leaning back in the pilot's chair. How do you burn the inside of a soufflé but not the outside? That's dark magic. It's a convection issue, said Nav Officer Ortega from the rear bunk, chewing through a protein bar with the distracted intensity of someone who hadn't stopped moving in 3 days. You've got to balance airflow and self-loathing. The third crew member, Jules, cargo tech, systems hacker, and unofficial vibe manager, had his boots up on the control console and was slowly turning a sandwich over in one hand. You think agricultural perishables includes animals? He asked. Elsie blinked. What kind of animal would they call a perishable? One you don't feed, Ortega offered. There was a brief pause. Jules stood, walked to the sealed crate in the cargo bay, knocked on it, and said, Hey, if you're edible and alive, this is a sandwich. No judgment. He slid the sandwich onto the crate lid. It stayed there. That settles that, Elsie muttered, and keyed in the next jump vector. Back at GC Central, a diplomatic incident tree was being populated in real time. Terms like unauthorized courier deviation, classified materials breach, and probable Terran mishandling filled the incident logs. A Level 3 audit was launched. Fleet Command rerouted an entire convoy to intercept the soggy toast before it entered Varnari space. Elsie rerouted around an asteroid cluster for scenic reasons. They didn't believe in straight lines. They believed in vibes and fuel efficiency, and possibly ghosts. Jules claimed to have seen one in the waste vent last month, but it turned out to be Ortega sleepwalking with a wrench. With the diplomatic convoy still 2 days behind and navigating legally through proper GC lanes, the soggy toast continued on its way, unaware of its payload, its importance, or the galactic incident slowly blooming behind it. At some point during the second day of flight, Ortega poked the crate again and frowned. "Do you think we should refrigerate it?" Jules considered. "It's labeled urgent, not chilled." "Yeah, but what if it's both?" "I left a sandwich on it. If it's still edible when we land, it didn't need chilling." This logic was accepted without debate. At 1842 Standard Time, Elsie opened her personal log, scrawled the words, "Cargo Stable, ETA Larthos Prime 0900. No screams yet," and closed it again. Behind them, GC Command was still trying to decrypt the one message they'd managed to intercept from the soggy toast, a simple, unencrypted ping that read, "En route. Fast. Don't wait up." The diplomat in charge of the original delivery was reportedly hospitalized for stress-related eye twitching. The soggy toast, meanwhile, initiated lunch. The soggy toast dropped out of sublight just outside the orbital perimeter of Larthos Prime, trailing an unauthorized jump vector, a faint smell of overheated protein bars, and what later scans identified as an actual trail of duct tape fluttering behind the rear stabilizer. Captain Elsie Tran stared at the planet's customs beacon and blinked. "Did anyone file landing clearance?" Jules, from the co-pilot chair, flipped through the console menus. "Nope, but it says priority urgent on the crate. Should get us through." "That's not how that works," Ortega mumbled from the engineering panel, deep into a diagnostic he had absolutely no intention of finishing. Elsie shrugged. "Then we'll try confidence." They hailed planetary traffic control using a frequency that was technically reserved for agricultural emergencies, and when the voice on the other end asked for identification, Elsie responded with, "Soggy toast inbound. Perishables on board. Time sensitive. Please advise." There was a pause. "Then please proceed to agricultural entry gate 7. Avoid drift into diplomatic airspace. That sector is closed." "Copy that," Elsie said, already rerouting directly into diplomatic airspace. Their descent was neither smooth nor entirely legal, but it was fast. The soggy toast clipped the top of a public holo display on final approach, rattled a windowsill belonging to someone important, and bounced once on the landing pad before settling at a slight angle that made the stabilizers groan. No alarms were triggered. The planetary security team, on seeing a small, battered Terran freighter reverse thrust into the central plaza of the Varnari Council Hall and deploy a cargo ramp, simply froze. The head guard opened his mouth to object, but before he could form a coherent sentence, Jules came down the ramp pushing a grav cart with the black diplomatic crate balanced on top, sandwich still sitting on it. "Perishable delivery," he called out. "Urgent. Where do you want it?" A Varnari customs official jogged over, visibly sweating, datapad in hand. What are you delivering?" "This area is under security lockdown." "Treaty documents, I think," said Jules. "What?" Jules gestured toward the crate. "Tag says urgent agri-perishables, but it stopped humming a day ago, so we figured we were close. Still sealed, though. No leaks." Captain Elsie followed behind him, clipboard in hand, chewing gum and projecting absolute legality. "We were told this was time-sensitive and critical," she said. "So we skipped the paperwork in case it slowed us down. You're welcome." The customs official looked like he was going to faint. Inside the council hall, negotiations between the Varnari and the Drelkar had been at a standstill for 19 weeks, stalled over a misprinted clause regarding fishing rights and the unfortunate phrasing of shared aquatic aggression zones. Neither delegation had expected the treaty crate to arrive early. In fact, both had prepared formal speeches blaming the GC for delays. When the crate was wheeled in, escorted not by ambassadors or security teams, but by 2 humans in mismatched flight suits and grease-streaked boots, it took several minutes for anyone to process what was happening. "Who are you?" asked the head of the Varnari delegation. Couriers, said Elsie. We brought the thing. It's slightly warm but intact. Jules tapped the side of the crate and produced a piece of tape and a scrap of Terran notepaper. He stuck it to the top of the crate in clear view. It read, Delivery completed. Urgent tag honored. Please fix your labeling system. The crew. The Drelkar diplomat squinted at it. Is that handwriting? Standard cursive, Jules said. Ink-based. Vintage. The crate was scanned, verified, opened under observation, and, miraculously, found to contain the correct documents, unaltered, uncorrupted, and still sealed with GC diplomatic wax, which had melted slightly but was declared symbolically acceptable. The Varnari immediately halted all protest statements. The Drelkar offered a cautious nod. Negotiations resumed within the hour. Back on the soggy toast, Ortega had already reattached the loose stabilizer panel using 2 bolts from the food locker and a vow to not fly through ion dust again, unless it looked really cool. Elsie filed their delivery report under completed, and Jules updated the onboard cargo manifest with a single line. Diplomatic stuff. Handled it. When GC Command finally pieced together the situation, using hastily pulled landing logs, traffic beacon drift data, and one confused courier network ping, they responded the only way they knew how, by issuing an immediate fine. The official violation list included unauthorized use of diplomatic airspace, failure to file courier chain of custody documents, use of a restricted docking platform, disruption of interspecies ceremonial order. The fine was transmitted in triplicate, along with a formal reprimand and a lengthy footnote about the importance of dignified protocol. It was never paid. The Varnari quietly absorbed the penalty under a clause in their new trade agreement, later describing the delivery as an example of cultural efficiency bordering on tactical chaos, which we found strangely inspiring. An internal GC report, prepared by the Logistics Oversight Subcommittee, included the following summary. Human success event. Unintended, beneficial, inconvenient. The incident prompted a closed-door meeting of the Diplomatic Logistics Contingency Planning Board, which resulted in the quiet addition of a new checkbox on all GC cargo dispatch forms. Terran handling, use only when desperate. Fleet-wide adoption was slow, but not zero. Back aboard the soggy toast, the crew celebrated their successful drop-off by opening a tin of preserved cheese cubes and rewatching soufflés of regret. It's not burned, Jules said, chewing slowly. It's caramelized. Same thing, Elsie replied. Different mood. They jumped to their next waypoint without incident. No one mentioned the treaty, no one brought up the fine, and no one, not a single person, asked what had happened to the sandwich. If you enjoy my stories set in the GC universe, you can now buy Tales from the GC Volume 1 in Kindle and paperback format off Amazon. It would mean the world to me if I sold a few copies, or even if you just flick through 1 or 2 of the stories on your Kindle Unlimited subscription. The links can be found in the description below. Thank you. The next GC story will be out soon.